helping you to weather good and bad economies without putting retirement on hold. This is the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo. Ken and his son Nick know that creating a comprehensive financial plan can align your hard-earned life savings with your retirement goals. Consider them your retirement architects. Now, the Tumolo Financial Podcast with Ken and Nick Tumolo.
Now, if you're feeling good about the stock market and all the predictions of a great 2025, I want to take a look back at what we were saying about this time last year. Most of the predictions had the S&P between 4,200 and 4,900. But as you know, Nick, the S&P hit over 6,000 points in December. So all the talking heads were way off. And there is a saying among those who do make these kinds of predictions that if you can't get it right, get noticed. So being outrageous could land you tomorrow's headline. They're doing it on purpose. Nick, is it difficult for your clients over at Tumolo Financial to tune out this kind of financial noise at this time of year?
That's funny how you say that, saying something outrageous and you'll be tomorrow's headline. Mm-hmm. I can think of one of the main people on one of the most prominent channels, and he's wrong more than 50% of the time that people bet against. So that is kind of funny that you say it that way. But a lot of people do take some of these predictions a little bit too serious because, like I just said, even the most prominent channels are wrong more than 50% of the time, sometimes too. And you can even go back to even recent events, 2022. I mean, almost everyone thought we were going to go in a recession in 2022. Mm-hmm. The market did end up going down 25% on the S&P, a little over 30% on the NASDAQ as well. So it did trend that way. But things ended up bouncing back a little quicker than people expected. So that's why that prediction thing, it's so hard to tell. I mean, if I had a crystal ball and I could tell you, oh, yeah, this is where the market's going to go, I probably wouldn't be working. I'd probably be retired and doing that with my own money, to be honest. Because, I mean, it's just so hard to predict. You're trying to look at past history, trying to look at trends. Even you go back to the presidential cycle of 6 months ago, more times than not, the presidential cycle is very volatile, and it kind of stays somewhat stagnant if you look at the history of it. And we had some volatility, but it was climbing in an upward direction towards election time. So a lot of these things sometimes don't even hold true, and you just got to kind of take the history, take what's going on in the economy and kind of, okay, this is what happened this time. Let's bank it and see what happens later on. And this is why we use algorithmic trading nowadays too with our investment managers. You don't want to put the behavioral science into it when you're trading, because if you do, you're usually going to get snake bitten. So sometimes getting these indications and, oh, you hit a certain point, you should get more out of the market, or, oh, you hit a certain point, you should be more into the market. That's why those computerized models work a little bit better than that behavioral trading. I'll even tell you a story, because 2022, that's where a lot of people were kind of annoyed with their advisors. And what I noticed is with advisors, sometimes they don't want to, unfortunately, answer the phone calls when the market's going down, or just kind of say, oh, yeah, it's going to come back up. You're fine. Let's just keep buying and holding and not listen to our clients at all. And what I noticed was when we actually went through that situation ourselves, I think we got maybe less than 5 calls out of hundreds of clients here. And it was just because we had pieces set in place, because we knew we're more retirement planning based. Most of our clients are 55 and older, and they need to preserve and have some growth on their accounts so that if something does happen, okay, we're just taking money from a different area and we're just going to let the other stuff have a little bit more buy and hold. But you got to have things diversified, set up properly to kind of have these things not be an issue when you get into a recession. So back in 2022, we had a few clients that we ended up getting from other firms because of these issues. And I do remember one back in 22 when this happened. He was about roughly 1 to 2 years from retirement, and he had the funds to retire at that point too. Everything was kind of set. And the advisor just kind of talked him into, okay, this is how I want to trade the account, without even listening to what his risk tolerance or anything that was. And like I said, the S&P went down 25%. Knowing this couple, they were more moderate conservative. Their account was down 35%. So that tells me it wasn't even moderate. It was more moderate aggressive at that point too. And no safety in the picture at all in his whole retirement portfolio, because he didn't end up giving his whole portfolio, thank God, to that advisor. But when we started figuring things out, and I'm like, look, you're actually in a good position. I know that it really is unfortunate that you just lost 35%, but you're actually still in a good position. So let's kind of reconfigure things. Let's figure things out. Let's make it more to your risk tolerance and kind of getting more of that safety and market risk as well. And it ended up working out for him, and they've been working with me since that day. And it seems like every time when they come in, they seem a little bit more comfortable. And I've had this situation too, where people come up to me and they say, I've had this one advisor and he just didn't listen to me, and now I don't trust any advisor. It's unfortunately a tough situation. So what I tell people, make sure your advisor's listening to you, whether it's market risk, whether it's your goals and aspirations during retirement, because I do have those situations too, where they just say, oh yeah, you can retire without showing any proof. Find the right advisor for you. Make sure they answer your questions. Make sure that you get good answers that make sense. Make sure they prove it out. We always prove it out with our Tumolo Retirement Checkup. That's complimentary to anyone that calls in today. Our phone number is 860-854-3434.
Investment advice offered through Tumolo Wealth Management, a Connecticut-registered investment advisor. Content contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice or for the purchase or sale of any security, insurance, or other investment product. Please consult with a qualified financial, tax, accounting, or legal professional before implementing any ideas or strategies discussed here.